Politics is a very interesting game. By the way, nimeshindwa na siasa ya Kenya. Politics is very interesting. Mike Mbuvi Sonko, the governor for Nairobi, was impeached yesterday. And by today, the Speaker of the Senate has already received notification about that impeachment from the Speaker of the County Assembly of Nairobi, Honorable Benson Mutura. And Mike Sonko now has only two options. The first option is to go to court to challenge that impeachment. And then the second option is to pray that the senators are not going to uphold that impeachment. But from all indications, someone is out to remove Mike Mbuvi Sonko out of Nairobi political scene. Because let us look at the drama which we witnessed yesterday and days before yesterday. Constitutionally, we have 122 MCS in Nairobi. And for impeachment motion to succeed, 82 of those 122 must vote in support of that motion. Yesterday, 88 MCS voted in support of that motion, which means they bypassed the requirement by 6 MCS. But these guys who are pushing for this impeachment were not sure of getting that 82 MCS. They were only sure of 80. So a few days to the nomination day, some 3 MCS, Jubilee MCS, nominated ones, were still giving them headache because they wanted these 3 MCS to support this impeachment motion. But these 3 MCS refused. So what happened? They were kicked out. They were expelled from the party for 3 months, which means instead of having 122 MCS in Nairobi, we now have 119. And constitutionally is 2/3, which means the number, the threshold, was reduced from 82 to 80 members of parliament. Members of the County Assembly of Nairobi. And Mike Mbuvi Sonko, in his own wisdom, started strategizing on how to stop the impeachment. And because there was no way he was going to stop the impeachment, he decided that he wanted to take a number of MCS to Mombasa and to Kwale. So he convinced 57 MCS. And these 57 MCS were paraded yesterday. And that's one thing I like with Mike Sonko. Yes, yet anasema we have 148 MPs. No. For him, it was clear that we have 57 MCS. So 57 MCS, if you remove, let me just... so from 122 MCS, if you remove 57, it means we are going to remain with 65 MCS supporting the motion. So Mike Sonko took 57 MCS to Mombasa. And the ones who are remaining were only 65, according to Mike Sonko. And there was no way these 65 were going to kick him out of office because they needed 80 or 82. So yesterday when votes were cast and counted, I really don't know what transpired. 88 MCS voted. And there's a story which is currently gaining currency within the political circles that Mike Sonko took some of these MCS to Kwale and he gave them money. So they say it was like 500. So you are given 200, then again another 300 somewhere. But it's like Sonko did not honor this. So some 20 MCS, 20 or so MCS, then decided to vote against Mike Mbuvi Sonko. So as things stand today, Mike Sonko is impeached. The speaker has been notified. I am sure Mike Sonko is already assembling a team of lawyers to go to court. And Mike Sonko has been impeached under 4 grounds. These guys are saying that he violated the constitution, he's abusing the office, number 2, gross misconduct, and that he's trying to cripple the operations of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. But from where I am, Mike Mbuvi Sonko committed so many political mistakes in this country. If Mike Sonko was just a good listener, I am sure today Mike Sonko would have been still the governor of Nairobi. And I've always maintained on this platform that Mike Sonko had only one option after he appended his signature to transfer certain functions to the Nairobi Metropolitan. He had only one option: to work very closely with Major Badi. Because look at Kisumu. In Kisumu, Anyang' Nyong'o is working very closely with the national government. And when Uhuru is coming to Kisumu to launch up a national government project, who takes credit? It's the professor. Currently, there's this road from Mamboleo, Miwani, going all the way. It's supposed to be launched. So it's the professor who is taking credit for it. So in my view, the Nairobi Metropolitan Services has done a good job, which makes Sonko, as a politician, should have taken credit for. But that's not happening. So Mike Sonko committed some of these 6 grave political mistakes. And those mistakes must be punished. So Mike Sonko is going to go home. That's one thing I can tell you. Because initially, Uhuru Kenyatta was not keen on sending Mike Mbuvi Sonko home. Uhuru Kenyatta has a soft spot for Mike Sonko, probably because Mike Sonko delivered Nairobi, and even the algorithm favored him. So Mike Sonko has been having a favorable relationship with Uhuru Kenyatta. If Mike Sonko was any other governor, I am sure he would have gone home long time ago. But these are the 6 mistakes he has committed. The first mistake was to frustrate Polycarp Igathe. Many people will say that Polycarp Igathe just resigned. But why was Polycarp Igathe resigning? When Polycarp Igathe resigned from Shell to come and become the running mate to Mike Mbuvi Sonko, he was serving a particular political interest. The Mount Kenya people wanted to take control of Nairobi. Raila Odinga, through Evans Kidero and NASA, had a grip on Nairobi. So these guys figured out that Akikuyu was not going to remove him, because the only options there was Johnson Sakaja, there was Sakaja, there was Peter Kenneth, and Margaret Wanjiru. So it became very difficult for them to front. So Mike Sonko emerged. But when Mike Sonko emerged, these guys told him that, okay, you're going to be the governor. But one thing you must do, we are going to give you a deputy. So the deputy governor, who ended up being Polycarp Igathe, was going to run the affairs of Nairobi. But you are going to deal with the politics of Nairobi. So that today, Mike Sonko would just be dealing with maneno ya BBI and the rest. While Polycarp Igathe was going to launch projects, or Sonko was going to launch projects for political value, but Polycarp Igathe was the guy who was going to look at who is getting this tender, something like that. The system wanted that because they wanted to control Nairobi. So Mike Sonko forced Polycarp Igathe to resign. And the moment Polycarp Igathe resigned, that marked the end of Mike Mbuvi Sonko in Nairobi. So that's the first mistake he committed. The second mistake he committed was that after Polycarp, I think before Polycarp Igathe even left, or after, I can't really remember when, State House recommended someone to be appointed as the county secretary, because they realized Sonko had started frustrating Polycarp Igathe. So they recommended someone as the country secretary, because country secretaries also have a lot of powers. Again, Sonko did not allow this guy. And this guy was being fronted directly by State House. In fact, I remember there was even a scandal he created for this guy. So Mike Sonko won at that time. But I knew by winning, he was actually stepping on very powerful toes, politically speaking. So that was the second mistake. The third mistake was his purported fight against deep state. Mike Sonko had these fond talks about the cartels. He would blame every other person, but not President Uhuru Kenyatta. So these guys were watching and monitoring Mike Sonko, and they were just waiting at the right time. At some point, I strongly believe that Mike Sonko even believed that he had defeated the system. And of course, Kenyans will always cheer you up when you are committing some of these mistakes. And Kenyans were cheering Mike Mbuvi Sonko as he continued committing each and every given mistake along the way. I remember at some point I told you guys that Sonko is going to go home. But I knew so well that Uhuru Kenyatta at some point was really defending him. So the mere fact that he was fighting the deep state, he was fond of fighting Karanja Kibichu, Matiang'i, and the rest. These are the guys who run the government. They run the country as at now. So you have to go. Number 4 was the failure to appoint the deputy governor. I don't know who are Mike Sonko's political advisors. The worst mistake he committed was failing to appoint a deputy governor. I am sure if Mike Sonko had appointed a deputy governor today, probably we will not be having the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. The appointment of Major Bade was as a result of failure by Mike Mbuvi Sonko to appoint the deputy governor. Because these guys were looking at a situation where if you don't have a deputy governor, then Mike Sonko is removed, because by that time there was that plan to remove him. And Mike Sonko is removed. Who was going to take over? So the only option was ballot. But the government was very clear by that time that the country was not ripe for a by-election. That's why Mike Sonko has been holding on. But I'm sure if Mike Sonko had appointed a deputy governor, I'm sure these mistakes would not have been there. Number 5, in my view, is when Mike Sonko engineered the removal of Beatrice Elache. Beatrice Elache was the speaker of the County Assembly of Nairobi. At some point, she was kicked out. Then the system brought her back. So when the system brought back Elache, I knew they were up to something. They wanted to kick Mike Sonko out. And I think Mike Sonko got rumors. And being Mike Sonko, he dealt ruthlessly with Beatrice Elache. And Elache had to resign. And for those who follow politics, when Elache resigned, the tone was very clear that someone had actually prevailed on her to resign, because she was given the task of removing Mike Sonko. She could not. So these guys figured out that we needed a strong man, a strong politician to execute this deal. So she was prevailed upon to resign. After resignation, then they brought in the former member of parliament for Makadara, Benson Mutura. And Benson Mutura is the guy who has executed this impeachment against Sonko.
Tender my resignation to His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta, the President of the Republic of Kenya and the Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces. And I'll just read what I wrote at night to my President. Sir, it gives me great pleasure to have served as the Speaker of Nairobi County Assembly from September 2017, when we finished the elections, to date. We have seen tremendous change, but also challenges. With the coming in of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, I believe Nairobi will transform to a better capital city. Sir, notwithstanding, for the last few days, we have seen lots of conflict and even life-threatening incidents. I humbly tender my resignation, and for continuity of the institution, I appoint my deputy pursuant to the law and the new act, the Honorable Speaker John Kamangu, who is the Deputy Speaker, to take over as the acting Speaker, and also the Chairperson of the Nairobi County Service Board, as the Assembly prepares to recruit a new Speaker.
So if Sonko had not engineered the removal of Brizelachi, I'm sure, probably she would not have succeeded here. Because Kenyans are even questioning about the numbers, whether they are real or it's just a system for time. Number 6, and this is where I believe Sonko did not go to school the way he always says, is when he transferred the functions to Major General Bade. He was given 15 minutes, he went to State House and signed the document. And according to Sonko, he was drunk. But that's not the reality. The truth of the matter is that Mike Mbuvi Sonko is recorded to have told President Uhuru Kenyatta to dissolve the county of Nairobi, to take over the county of Nairobi. Listen in to Mike Sonko.
Mimi Mheshimiwa Rais, na kuomba kateli iliko county ni kubwa zaidi, nahitaji msaada yako kuidismantle. Hata revenue Mheshimiwa Rais, tumejaribu, pesa inaenda kwa bank, lakini bado makatelo wameganga. Tunaomba uingilie hiyo kazi Mheshimiwa Rais. Vile ulifanya KRA, ukapeleka wafisadi nyumbani, naomba msaada yako Nairobi Mheshimiwa Rais. Kama ni revenue chukua huko national government. Kama ni planning Mheshimiwa Rais, ichukua pia ile national government. Kwa hiyo njia ukinisaidia Mheshimiwa Rais, cartel zitazikwa kwa kaburi ya sahau, wananchi wapate maendeleo, vijana wapate kazi, mahospitali ziwe na madawa, mashule iweze kujengwa. Mheshimiwa Rais, tunakupenda na tuko nyuma yako. Asante sana, Mwenyezi Mungu awabariki.
So that's another mistake he committed. Another last mistake and he had to do was his fight with Major Bade. Why was Mike Sonko fighting Bade? She had been cornered. Mike Sonko was arrested, taken to court over corruption. These guys had cornered Mike Sonko. They had told Mike Sonko that you are powerless. Then they brought Major Bade to county assembly. Do you think Sonko can fight Major Bade? No, I don't think. That's not possible. Sonko can only fight other wars, but not the military guy. And fighting this guy means fighting President Uhuru Kenyatta. The guy has performed. What the guy has done in 1 or so years cannot be equated to what Mike Sonko has done, or even what Kidero did when he was the governor. Water is now in the slums and the rest. And some of those are what Sonko used to manipulate. And that's why Mike Sonko was removed, and there were no chaos in Nairobi. Because the slums are now happy with Major Bade. So the moment he started fighting Major Bade, that's the moment he started fighting President Uhuru Kenyatta directly. Because remember, President Uhuru Kenyatta even made Bade as part of his cabinet. Nowadays he attends cabinet meeting. I don't know what you think, but in my view, Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga have a clear game plan for Nairobi. And my gut tells me that we might have a by-election in Nairobi. Because constitutionally, you can't have a deputy governor. We don't have a deputy governor in Nairobi. So which means if Sonko is out, the deputy who was supposed to act or take over is not going to take over. But again, the speaker cannot take over, because the constitution is if the deputy governor is also not there, then the speaker takes over. But the speaker only takes over for 90 days. And during those 90 days, they prepare for an election. And when that election will be called, I'm seeing a situation where Peter Kenneth might actually be paired by Elizabeth Ongoro in Nairobi. Let me hear your thoughts. But it might not, we might not go to the elections. These guys might argue that the Nairobi Metropolitan took some functions of Nairobi, so there's no need for a by-election. So the speaker will sit there and now sign these bills, which makes Sonko has refused the budget, the 37 billion. So the speaker will now have the authority to sign. And Nairobi will move on without Mike Mbuvi Sonko.